Hey everybody, Kevin here, Skylabs. We're kind of in the middle of the coronavirus right now, or at least maybe the beginning of it. I'm not sure. Um, doesn't seem like vintage audio right now seems to be very important. But had an encounter with a customer today. Wanted to do a video on this subject for a while, and I wanted to do it, but I didn't want it to feel like I was complaining, because 99.99999 percent of our customers are amazing, very cool people. We love you. We thank you. Hopefully Skylabs continues after this is all over, and we can get back to servicing your vintage equipment needs. However, there's always, that 1% that just gets you riled up or whatnot. And I see it on the Facebook groups as well. Sometimes, you'll see somebody post up and say, hey, I just got this fixed. This is what it cost. Or, they weren't able to repair this. And then, your usual people chime in saying, oh, well, that's bullshit. I can't believe they couldn't fix it. Or I can't believe they charged you that much. And this really is just, I want to give you guys the other side. And with most places you go to get your stuff repaired, at least this has been my experience, you bring a piece of equipment in and you check it in with who's ever behind the counter, and they give you a call month, 2 months later, however long it is. You never speak to the tech, and you go and you pick up the piece of gear, and you go on about your way. So I don't feel like the story has been told, at least from the tech's view, to the repair world. And not that it's a story full of drama and all this craziness, but I do feel like, because very rarely do techs get to tell their side of the situation, or a lot of times techs really aren't. They're not the most people. They're not a, what do I want to say? People person. They're not good with people. That works. And that's why a lot of times they're kind of hidden behind the scenes. That's not the situation here at Skylabs. We have 4 techs here, and all 4 of us are sitting right out here in the open, and that's intentional. That's so we're not trying to hide the repair process. We want you to be able to come in, see who's going to be working on your piece of gear, and be able to talk to that person, rather than relaying messages between somebody that usually works behind a counter or calls you on the phone. So a couple things to think about if you're planning on getting a piece of vintage gear repaired. What you have to look at it almost like it's a mechanic, and you either have to trust the shop you're taking something to, or don't take it there. I've seen every one of us in this room. We always err to the customer's benefit, always, more than maybe we even should, just because that's just who we are. None of us are trying to get some extra money out of anybody. We're not claiming to do work that we're not doing. We're not doing this necessarily for the money. I think every one of us here took a pay cut, really, to come do this. And that's another reason why, it does it's so insulting, I think, when, somebody does, either they don't respect that or they don't see it, and they end up, saying the things they do, and they just don't realize, if this was such a lucrative business, and this was, really easy to do, we wouldn't be the only one in the 5-state area, or the 4-state area, or 3, or whatever. We get people that send us equipment from all over the place. And we don't want to take advantage of that. That's not why we're here. You know, we're here. We want to do the best we can with what we have, and we just want to be paid accordingly and fair to you and fair to us. And so you go into taking a piece to get repaired. And I kind of want to take you through the old school mentality of the repair tech, because really in the 70s and 80s, it was a lot different. And, you know, this is stuff that I hear from, you know, the techs that work here that are older than me that went through that, and other techs that I've talked to, and that, you know, you would take let's say you had a Marantz and it had a channel out on it, or you weren't getting audio out of one channel. You would take it to a warranty service center for Marantz. That tech would open up the Marantz, figure out what was wrong, whether it was a power supply board or an amplifier board or whatever. They would either call or have a replacement power supply board or amplifier board in stock and install that into your Marantz. Boom, problem solved. You know, whatever had a critical failure, and the reason is it's better to replace a whole board anytime with a whole new service board, because if something got hot, it could have cracked the board, it could have pulled a solder trace. There's a lot of things that could have happened that by putting in just an entirely new amplifier or power supply board solves so many things. That's not the way it is today. Today is like the Wild West, in that we are having to repair these receivers and these amplifiers on a component level. So you have to go through and you have to check all the capacitors, all the resistors, all the transistors, and it's not the same. It's harder. And on top of that, we don't have any support from the manufacturers. We can't get parts. There's a lot of proprietary parts that are in these receivers and amplifiers. A lot of outputs, STK packs, all that kind of thing. Some of you know what I'm talking about. And then cosmetic parts. We get people that think that we can just call Onkyo and they'll send us a new dial indicator or a new knob, or, you know, and they will laugh their ass off if we were to call them and ask them for a knob. It doesn't exist. You know, we're having to source parts on eBay, or we're having to, a lot of times, manufacture our own. As in, you know, new parts sometimes are smaller or bigger, depending on what they are. So you have to get creative. This isn't an easy thing to do. That's why there's not a lot of shops out there doing this. And so just remember that. You know, remember that when you go into this, that you're trusting the people you're giving your piece of equipment to be honest with you and do the work they say they're going to do. And if you can get that, you're good. Now, however, we also get people, and once again, this is a slim amount. Most people understand how business works, how repairs work, but I literally have had people come to pick up a receiver. I'm thinking of this one guy in particular, but I set the receiver up on the counter. We just did a repair. We didn't do any lamps. We didn't do any detail cleaning. We didn't do any of that kind of stuff. We just fixed it. That's all he wanted done. We called him with a quote to do some of our cosmetic improvements. He didn't want them. But I remember I set it up on the counter, I powered up, and he said, "Hey, wait a minute, that lamp is out." And I said, "Well, we didn't replace any lamps." And he says, "Well, but it must have failed, or something happened to it while it was here." And that is, I mean, think about that. That's like going to a mechanic, or, you know, getting your oil changed, having a turn signal go out, and blaming the guy for changing your oil that your lamp went out on your car. It's the same thing. Not to mention, most of these receivers are 50, 45 years old. You know, there's so many things that could go wrong at any given second. We cannot replace every single component in a piece. It would cost a fortune. And the likelihood that we could fix something only to have another problem happen a month, a day, 2 months is likely. We do the best we can to look at your piece and make suggestions to you as what we think would be beneficial to keep your unit, your receiver, your amplifier working as long as it can. And that's all we can do. So keep that in mind. Just because we service something, and just because something might even be a substantial repair, does not mean that means that your piece is going to be bulletproof for years to come. It's just not that way. Another thing to remember, if you take in a piece to repair, or you call in to a repair shop, the last thing you want to ask the person is, how much is this going to cost to get repaired? Because the truth is we don't know. Nobody knows. We can't diagnose stuff over the phone, or off, it makes this sound, or it's not doing this. It could be a plethora of different things. A lot of times we get in there and we fix the problem, the critical. Let's say you bring in a receiver and we're not getting audio out of the left and right. We fix the amplifier. Now we have audio out of the left and right channels. All of a sudden, we realize the phono input isn't working because maybe it's damaged, the phono preamp. So now we have to call you and say, hey, do you want to fix the phono preamp? We weren't able to test it because the amplifier wasn't working. So that's kind of a common thing where you have to fix one thing to find another thing. And it happens all the time. So when we give quotes, that doesn't mean that, that quote that we give you is going to fix everything we come across along the way. It's just impossible. It can't be done. So that's another thing to think about. Go in there knowing that, you either kind of have money for the repair or you don't. It's either something you want to repair or you don't. And it's unfortunate that it's that way, but that's the reality of it. Once again, these pieces are 50 years old. There's a ton of stuff in these that could fail at any moment. Bringing me to my next point. Warranty on repairs. Our warranty is 30 days on parts we install. And I really think that's the best thing we can do for us and for you. That's the most fair. And I look at it like this. I just bought a used truck from a car dealership for over $20,000, and I got zero warranty on it. Zero. If anything happens to that truck, it comes out of my pocket. If the engine blows or the transmission goes out, anything happens, it's my repair to foot. So if you look at it like, we're servicing 50-year-old pieces of gear, or we're selling 50-year-old pieces of gear that are, when they leave the shop, in our best abilities, working good and working in order that they're not going to walk back in the door. That is our hope, that it's going to continue to work for a long time. That being said, there's a million things that could happen. We will do the best we can to work with you. I don't think we've ever made anybody pay for a repair. Not entirely. What we've usually done is I'll have somebody pay for the parts, I'll eat the labor. I think we've done that the most, and we rarely have that happen. It's not a common occurrence. Most of the time, things go out and they stay out and they stay in good working order. But if something does happen, you're buying a 50-year-old piece of electronics. Or if we did service something, if we service one piece of the amplifier, once again, there's still 100 other things around it that can go bad, and most likely will go bad at some point. So that's part of this hobby. That's part of the appeal of it. And you just have to kind of accept that. I think I've covered everything on my notes here that I wanted to talk about. What we get paid, in the grand scheme of things, guys, like I say, we're not here making money. Yes, we're making money, but not maybe what you guys think. Self-employment is really, you take a huge chunk. Plus, there's no vacation time, there's no sick time. If we're not repairing stuff, we're not getting paid. And nobody here is driving a Mercedes or a Lexus or has a boat or a big house, or It's just not the reality of it, we are we are making a living and doing the things that that we love to do, and we want to continue to do that. Hopefully, the economy comes back and everything, and we can continue to do that. Um, but just keep that in mind. Even if you're not bringing it to us, if you're bringing it to somebody else, most likely those people they're not trying to take your money. They wouldn't be around. They wouldn't be in business. It would not take very long to shut, or to figure out that somebody's taking advantage of people, and they just wouldn't be getting business anymore. These are vintage electronics, and for the most part, once again, guys, 99.999% of you guys are awesome. We love seeing every one of you guys walk in the door, and you get it. It's just those few out there, and one of them today, in the middle of this world crisis we're dealing with, thinks that his reel to reel is the most important thing on the planet. And this guy, he's got to be, I'd say he's in his 50s, and you'd think he was 5 years old. It is really sad, and it really kind of hurt me, and it hurt the tech that was involved with his repair. That you can. I'm almost not taking it personal, because I guarantee it, a lot of people have seen the same side of this person that we have, because you can just tell he's one of those guys, and he's got me shaking. I was so mad. Oof. But anyway, so hope everybody's doing good out there. We're staying healthy here. Everybody we've talked to says they're doing good. So hopefully things come back around and we can open up back up again. And we'll see you then. Thanks for letting me rant. Sometimes it's hard to put this all on my wife or whatever, because she's not in it. She does a good job of helping me through it, but I think you guys would understand a little bit better, and it helps me get it off my chest, because man, that guy pissed me off. And you guys know me. I'm not like that, but holy shit. Man, that guy was a douchebag. So, anyway, we'll see you after it's all over, hopefully. Thank you.